My name is Vivian Sterling. I am 70 years old, and on the morning of Mother's Day, I woke up earlier than the sun. The house was still wrapped in that heavy pre-dawn silence that only old houses know. The kind where every creak of the floorboards sounds like a memory trying to speak. I lay in bed for a few minutes listening to the quiet, feeling the familiar ache in my lower back and the sharper one in my knees. But today those aches felt different, almost hopeful. Today was going to be different. My children were coming. They had promised. I had called them both the day before, just to be sure. First, Tanisha. She answered on the third ring, sounding rushed, like she was already halfway out the door even though it was barely noon on Saturday. Yes, Mama, of course we're coming tomorrow, she had said. Words tumbling over each other. Brunch, right? We'll be there. Gotta run. Talk later. Love you, bye. She hung up before I could say I love you back. Then Malik. He picked up on the first ring, voice low and sleepy. Yeah, Ma, we coming. Don't worry about it. I'll make sure Tanisha don't forget neither. A small laugh. The kind he used to give when he was 10 and proud of himself for remembering something important. See you tomorrow. Click. 2 yeses. 2 promises. That was all I needed. For once I let myself believe them. So I rose before 6, moving slow but steady through the little house on Cloverdale Street that had been mine and Marcus's since 1983. I pulled the good china from the top shelf of the cabinet, the set with the tiny pink roses that my own mama gave me the day I married. I washed every plate by hand even though they were already clean, because that's what you do when it's special. I ironed the white linen napkins I hadn't touched since Marcus's funeral 28 years ago. I pressed the matching tablecloth until not a single wrinkle remained. I set 5 places even though there would only be 3 of us. Old habit from when Marcus was alive, and we always hoped for one more chair to be filled someday. In the center of the table, I placed the flowers I had bought with the last $23 from my Social Security check, a modest bunch of peach carnations and baby's breath from the corner market. They looked almost grand against the white cloth. I stepped back and looked at my work. The dining room glowed in the soft morning light. For the first time in years, the house felt like it was waiting for something good. By 8 o'clock, the chicken was seasoned, and resting in the roasting pan, garlic, rosemary, lemon, the way Marcus loved it, potatoes peeled and soaking in cold water, collard greens washed 3 times, cornbread batter ready for the oven, fruit salad cut and chilling, homemade biscuits rising on the counter under a clean dish towel, everything timed to be perfect at 1 sharp. I bathed and put on my Sunday best, the pale blue dress I bought for Tanisha's wedding 15 years ago, the one I sat alone in at the back of the church. I even put on a little lipstick, rose petal, the same shade I wore when Marcus was courting me. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw an old woman trying very hard to look hopeful. I smiled at her anyway. At 11 the table was fully set. At 11:30, I slid the chicken into the oven. At 12 I sat down on the sofa with my hands folded in my lap and waited. The clock ticked loud enough to sound like judgment. 12:15, 12:30, 12:45. I told myself they were stuck in traffic. I told myself young people are always late. I told myself everything would be fine. At 1, the chicken came out perfect, golden skin, juices running clear. The smell drifted through every room like a promise. I covered it with foil to keep it warm and sat back down. 1:15, 1:30, 1:45. I called Tanisha, straight to voicemail. I called Malik, straight to voicemail. I left the same message for both, trying to keep my voice light. Hey, baby, just checking everything's okay. Food's ready whenever y'all get here. Love you. Do Siu. 2:15, 2:30. The knot that lived permanently in my stomach tightened until I could barely breathe. I walked to the front window and looked out at the quiet street. Across the way, Mrs. Carter was helping her daughter unload grocery bags while her grandbabies ran circles. On the lawn, laughing. Down the block, the Robinsons were piling into their minivan, dressed in Sunday clothes, probably heading to Miss Arletha's famous after-church spread. Everywhere I looked, mothers were being loved out loud. I went back to the dining room and sat at the head of the table. 5 empty chairs stared back at me like accusations. 3:30, cuarñas. The chicken was no longer warm even under the foil. The biscuits had fallen. The flowers were already starting to droop. I stayed seated anyway, hands folded, staring at the place settings until the light shifted and the room turned gold. Then orange, then bruised purple. At 5:30 I finally stood. My legs had gone numb. I wrapped every dish in foil and plastic and stacked them in the refrigerator like I was putting dreams away for another year. I washed the good china by hand, dried it, and returned it to the top shelf where it would probably stay until I died. I folded the tablecloth and the napkins and put them back in. The cedar chest that smelled of mothballs and old weddings. I carried the flowers to the trash can on the back porch and dropped them in. They landed with a soft final thud. I turned off the kitchen light and walked to the living room. I did not turn on a lamp. I sat on the sofa in the growing dark and waited for the tears to come. They came quiet. Not the loud, dramatic kind you see in movies. These were the slow, silent kind that slide down the cheeks of women who have cried too many times to make noise anymore. They tasted like every Mother's Day, every birthday, every Christmas. I had spent alone while my children lived lives that apparently had no room for me. I thought about the years. I had worked 3 cleaning jobs so they could have new sneakers. The nights I starched and ironed their school uniforms while they could look respectable. The mornings I went without coffee so there would be milk for their cereal. The decades I told myself, they'll understand one day. They'll come back one day. They'll see me one day. The clock struck 8, then 9. At 9:47 I heard a car door. Then another. Laughter, bright, drunk, careless laughter, floated through the screen door. Keys rattled. The front door opened and the overhead light snapped on, blinding me. Tanisha stood there in a tight red dress and perfect makeup, smelling of coconut rum and expensive perfume. Malik loomed behind her in a crisp new shirt, gold chain flashing at his throat, grinning the grin of a man who has not thought about his mother once all day. "Hey, Mama," Tanisha sang, swaying slightly. We was in the neighborhood, thought we'd pop by. Malik leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "What's up, Ma? You good?" I sat very still on the sofa. Swollen eyes, blue dress wrinkled now. Heart somewhere down around my ankles. Tanisha dropped into the armchair like she owned it. Malik stayed standing. The silence stretched until it snapped. Then Tanisha pulled out her phone, glanced at the screen, and looked up with that bright, practiced smile I knew too well. "Mama," she said, sweet as spoiled honey, "we actually need to talk about something kind of urgent." Malik nodded, stepping closer. "Yeah, Ma, we in a little bind. Bills stacked up. Rent, credit cards, you know how it go. We hating to ask, but maybe 3,000? We'll pay you back, swear." $3,000. They had not even taken off their coats. They had not asked why I was sitting in the dark. They had not noticed the faint smell of rosemary and lemon still clinging to the air, or the fact that I was wearing the blue dress I saved for special days. They looked around the room like they were casing it, eyes sliding over the empty dining room like it meant nothing. Something inside me that had been cracked for years finally shattered clean through. I looked at my children, my beautiful, selfish, grown children, and I did not see the little boy who once drew me pictures of houses with swimming pools, or the little girl who used to beg me to braid her hair every night. I saw only 2 strangers who had come to collect from an ATM that happened to look like their mother. And in the pocket of my blue dress, folded inside my old leather wallet, was an envelope I had tucked away that very morning. A Greyhound ticket, one way, Coastal Haven, Georgia. Departure 2 months from today. $70 I had saved by skipping my blood pressure pills twice and eating only oatmeal for 10 days. I had bought it 3 weeks ago, after the last time they borrowed $800 and never mentioned it again. I had not been sure I would actually use it until this moment. Now I was sure. I looked at Tanisha's extended hand and Malik's hopeful face, and I felt the weight of 70 years settle on my shoulders like a coat. I was finally ready to take off. "No," I said. My voice came out steady, almost gentle. "I don't have it." Tanisha's smile faltered. "Mama, come on now." I said no. Malik's jaw tightened. "Ma, this serious—" "I heard you," I cut in. "And I'm telling you I don't have $3,000. I don't have 300. I barely have enough for my own bills. So the answer is no." The room went church quiet. Tanisha stood up first, snatching her purse. "Unbelievable. When we really need you." Malik shook his head, already turning toward the door. "Aight then. We'll figure it out some other way. Thanks for nothing." The door slammed behind them. The engine revved. Tires squealed. And then silence again. I sat in the dark a long time. Then I stood up, walked to my bedroom, and took the bus ticket out of my wallet. I held it up to the moonlight coming through the curtains. 2 months, I thought. Just 2 more months in this house, in this life, pretending to be the mother they wanted, the endless, guilt-soaked, ever-giving mother they had trained so well. After that, Vivian Sterling would disappear. Not die, disappear. And no one, not even my own children, would know where to find me. I placed the ticket back in the envelope, slid it between the pages of the Bible I hadn't opened in years, and for the first time in decades, I slept without dreaming of tomorrow's disappointment, because tomorrow was no longer theirs to ruin. The day after Mother's Day, I did not get out of bed until almost noon. The house felt different now, like it had taken sides in the night and chosen them over me. Every corner carried the smell of cold roast chicken and broken promises. I lay there staring at the ceiling fan turning slow circles, listening to the silence that used to feel lonely, but now felt almost peaceful, because at least silence never lies. When I finally stood up, my knees cracked loud enough to echo. I made coffee with the last 3 spoons in the Folgers can and carried the mug to the kitchen table. That was when I saw the envelope I had left on the counter the night before. The Greyhound ticket, still waiting like a quiet soldier. I touched it once just to be sure it was real, then put it back in the drawer, under the good silverware, the place no one ever looked. But something had shifted inside me while I slept. The tears were gone. In their place was a cold, clear anger I had never allowed myself to feel before. I had spent 50 years swallowing that anger, telling myself a good mother doesn't get angry. A good mother forgives, a good mother understands. Well, I was done being good. I wanted to know exactly how deep the rot went. I had an old laptop Malik gave me 6 years ago when he upgraded. It's slow, but it still works. I carried it to the table, plugged it in, and opened it for the first time in months. The screen flickered like it was surprised to be awake. I opened Facebook, something I only ever used to see pictures of my grandbabies that never came, and typed Tanisha's name. Her profile loaded bright and loud. The first photo was from yesterday, posted at 4:17 p.m., right around the time I was throwing away wilted carnations. Mother's Day vibes with my chosen family, blessed chakra, no kids, no problem. There were 27 photos. Tanisha in a white sundress on a rooftop bar overlooking downtown Atlanta, holding a giant mango margarita. Tanisha laughing with women I had never met. Tanisha dancing while someone poured champagne down her throat. In every picture she glowed, young, rich, carefree. In not one of them did she look like a woman whose mama was home alone crying. I scrolled farther back. 2 weeks ago, Tanisha in Miami posed in front of a yacht that definitely wasn't rented by someone who couldn't pay rent. 1 month ago, Tanisha with a new Michael Kors bag and Louboutin heels. Caption, treating myself because I deserve. 3 months ago, Tanisha at a brunch spot where the mimosa towers cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Caption, living my best life. Every photo a slap. I clicked on Malik's page next. Same story, different flavor. New Jordan sneakers every week. Videos of him at concerts in the VIP section. A brand new Dodge Charger parked outside a high-rise apartment he swore he was about to get evicted from. Pictures at clubs with bottles that had sparklers in them. A photo of him and that young girl, maybe 25, both of them on a beach in Destin. His arm around her waist, caption, she love a real one. I sat back and stared at the screen until my eyes burned. All these years I had believed their emergencies. I had sold my wedding ring to help Malik keep the lights on. I had gone 3 winters without a proper coat so Tanisha could pay off a credit card. I had eaten oatmeal for dinner for weeks at a time so they would not be stressed. And the whole time they were living like influencers while calling me at the first of the month with sob stories. Something inside me turned to stone. I closed the laptop, walked to the bedroom, and pulled out the old shoebox from the top shelf of my closet. Inside were receipts, bank statements, little scraps of paper where I had written down every dollar I ever gave them. I had always kept track, telling myself it was so I would know when they paid me back. Deep down, I knew they never would. I carried the box to the kitchen table and started adding. 2019, $4,200. 2020, $3,800. 2021, $5,100. 2022, $4,900. 2023, $4,300. 2024 so far, $3,600. $25,900. More money than I had ever had in the bank at one time in my entire life. I stared at the final number until the paper blurred. Then I opened the laptop again and went back to Tanisha's page. I scrolled and scrolled until I found what I was looking for. A screenshot she had posted by mistake 6 months ago and never deleted. It was a group chat named Sterling Kids, just her and Malik. Malik, you hit the old woman up yet? Tanisha, not yet, but I'm finna cry on cue, lol, watch me work. Malik, Lamau tell her the light's getting cut off, she loved that dramatic shit. Tanisha, watch me get at least 800D. Malik, poor thing really think we gon' take care of her when she old. Tanisha, she already old, let her keep funding the glow up. I read it 4 times. Each time the words cut deeper, cleaner, until there was no blood left to bleed. I printed the screenshot. The old printer groaned and spat out the page. I stared at their laughing emojis until I could have drawn them from memory. That was the moment I stopped being their mother and started being Vivian Sterling. A woman with a plan. I called the only person left in the world I trusted, Miss Eleanor Johnson. Ellie, my neighbor for 39 years. Her husband died, the Lord rest him. Died the same year Marcus did. I had held her hand at the funeral, brought her cornbread for a month straight, sat with her when the house felt too big. She never forgot it. The phone rang twice. Vivian, baby, I was just thinking about you, she answered. Voice warm as always. Ellie, I said, and my voice cracked on her name. I need help. 30 minutes later, she was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee gone cold, looking at the printed receipts, the Facebook photos, the chat screenshot. She didn't say a word the whole time I talked. When I finished, she reached across the table and took both my hands in hers. Vivian, she said, eyes shining fierce, this stops today. She told me her nephew Avery Jones had just made partner at a law firm downtown. He owes me favors, she said. He'll see you tomorrow if I ask. I nodded. I didn't cry. I was all cried out. That night I barely slept, but for the first time the restlessness felt like power instead of pain. I got up at 4 a.m. and started cleaning out drawers, throwing away anything that didn't spark joy, as the young people say. Old greeting cards from people who never visited. Knickknacks my children gave me out of guilt the one Christmas they showed up. I filled 3 big black trash bags and set them by the curb before the sun came up. At 10 a.m. the next day, I was sitting in Avery Jones's office downtown. He was 35, sharp suit, kind eyes. When I told him my story, he didn't flinch once. He took notes like a man who had heard every kind of ugly and still believed justice was possible. You are not legally obligated to give your adult children, he said. Calm and clear. Not 1 cent. You can change your will today if you want. You can open accounts they know nothing about. You can sell this house and move to the moon if you want. Mrs. Sterling, and no law in Georgia can stop you. I felt the stone inside me crack open and something light rush in. How much, I asked. For everything, will, new accounts, beneficiary changes, protective measures, 500 flat, and I'll take payments if you need. I thought about the bus ticket waiting in the drawer. I'll have it for you by Friday, I said. He smiled like he already knew I would. That afternoon, Ellie and I opened a new bank account at a credit union my children had never heard of. I transferred every dime I could from my old checking, left only 200 in the old one so the direct deposit wouldn't bounce. The new account was in my name only. No secondary cardholders. No joint anything. I felt like I had smuggled my own soul out of prison. Over the next week, I started selling things. The china went to Miss Eva Carter down the street for $50. Eyes shining like I had handed her treasure. The dining table to a young couple just starting out. The sofa to Mr. George, who promised to treat it gentle. Every time something left the house, I felt lighter, like I was exhaling 50 years of held breath. I kept the receipts from every sale and added the money to my secret account. One evening, I sat with Ellie on her porch drinking sweet tea, and I told her about the bus ticket. I'm leaving, Ellie. Not tomorrow, but soon. Somewhere far, somewhere they won't think to look. She didn't try to talk me out of it. She just reached over and squeezed my hand. You deserve the ocean, Vivian, she said. You always did. That night, I got on the Greyhound website again and changed the departure date. Moved it up 6 weeks. I didn't want to wait anymore. I paid the change fee with the money I made selling Marcus's old toolbox. The one Malik swore he would come get one day and never did. 60 days. 60 days and I would be gone. But before I disappeared, I needed to be sure. I needed to see with my Own eyes exactly who they had become, when they thought no one was watching. So I started following them. Not in a dramatic movie way, hiding behind newspapers. Just quiet, ordinary ways. I rode the city bus past Malik's mechanic shop at closing time. I sat on a bench outside, the mall where Tanisha worked, and watched her leave. For lunch with her friends, shopping bags swinging. And I wrote everything down in a spiral notebook I bought for 99 cents at the Dollar General. Tuesday, May 21st. Malik left work at 5:12 p.m. with a young woman. New white BMW, not the Charger he tells me is broken down. Dinner at St. Cecilia, 2 bottles of wine, her hand on his thigh under the table. Bill easily $250. Thursday, May 23rd. Tanisha bought 187 red dress at Lenox Mall. Told me last week she couldn't afford groceries. I filled 12 pages in 10 days. Every entry was another brick in the wall I was building around my heart. One night I followed Malik all the way to a club downtown. I sat in the park across the street in the dark, watching the strobe lights flash through the windows, watching him come out at 2 a.m. with the same young girl, both of them laughing, his arm around her waist. He opened the passenger door of the BMW for her like a gentleman, then peeled out doing 60 in a 35. I wrote the license plate number in my notebook and went home on the night bus. Bones aching but mind clear. I was no longer spying out of pain. I was gathering evidence, because I had decided something the night I printed that screenshot of their chat. When I left, I would not simply disappear. I would leave a door open just long enough to look them in the eye and tell them exactly what they had done and exactly what they had lost. Then I would close that door forever. And on the other side of that door, in my mind, I nailed the printed screenshot, the receipts, the photos, the notebook, everything that proved who they really were. 60 days, I kept telling myself. 60 days and I would be free. But first, they were going to hear my voice. My real voice, not the soft, pleading mama voice they were used to. They were going to hear Vivian. And Vivian was done begging. Saturday, July 19th. 3 weeks before my bus left forever. I woke up at 5 a.m. with the plan already, burning in my chest like a second heart. Today was the day I would cook the best meal of my life, set the most beautiful table I had ever set, and then, while my children ate the food I made with these old hands, I would bury them with the truth. I had rehearsed it in the mirror every night for 2 weeks. I had written and rewritten the words on pages. I later burned in the backyard grill so no one would ever find them. I had printed everything, the receipts, the screenshots, the notebook pages, the new will, the bank statements showing the new secret account, the letter from Avery confirming that upon my death only 25% would ever reach them, and only if they were still alive. I put it all in a thick manila folder labeled simply for Tanisha and Malik. Then I prepared 3 envelopes. Envelope 1, Tanisha, keys to a safe deposit box, containing her daddy's war medals, his love letters to me, and the only baby picture of her I had left. Envelope 2, Malik, keys to a second box with Marcus's pocket watch, his wedding band, and the drawings Malik made when he was 7 of the big house he promised to buy me one day. Envelope 3, Ellie, a thank you letter and $600 cash, the exact amount she had lent me for Avery's fee plus a little extra for being the only soul who ever saw me. I sealed them with the same tape I once used to wrap their Christmas presents. At 9 a.m., I started cooking. Roast chicken with rosemary and lemon, just like Marcus loved. Candied yams the way my mama taught me. Collard greens slow simmered with smoked turkey. Cornbread from scratch, still warm when it hit the table. Macaroni and cheese with 5 cheeses because that was Malik's favorite when he was little. Homemade yeast rolls, peach cobbler bubbling in the oven, the smell filling every corner of the house. I cooked like a woman possessed, not out of love anymore, but out of memory. I wanted the food to taste like every good thing I had ever given them. I wanted them to chew and swallow their childhood while I fed them their future. At 3 p.m., I set the table with the silver my mother left me, the crystal glasses Marcus and I got his wedding, gifts and never used because we were saving them for good. Today was the good. Today was the very last good. I wore black. Simple, elegant, the dress I bought for Marcus's funeral, but never wore because I was too broken to care what I looked like that day. Today I cared. I did my hair in soft curls, put on pearl earrings, and the faintest touch of lipstick. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who was finally ready to speak. At 6:47 p.m., Malik's Charger pulled up outside. I watched from the window as they climbed out, both dressed like they were going to a club after this. Tanisha in gold heels, Malik in a silk shirt that probably cost more than my light bill. They were laughing about something on the way to the door. I opened it before they could knock. "Come in," I said, voice calm, smile small but real. "I've been waiting." Tanisha air-kissed my cheek, careful not to smudge her makeup. Malik gave me the one-arm hug he perfected by men, who don't really want to touch you. "House smells good, Ma," Malik said, already heading for the dining room like he owned it. Tanisha followed, phone in hand, thumbs flying. "You went all out, Mama. What's the occasion?" "You'll see," I said. I poured them cheap wine, the $6.99 bottle from the corner store, because the good wine was staying packed for Coastal Haven. They drank it like it was vintage anyway. We made small talk for 20 minutes. Weather, traffic, their jobs, the usual lies with polite faces. I nodded and smiled and waited. At 7:20 I said, "Dinner's ready." They walked into the dining room and stopped. The table was breathtaking, candles flickering, silver gleaming, food arranged like a magazine spread, the peach cobbler still steaming in the center. Tanisha actually gasped, "Mama, this is beautiful." Malik pulled out his phone to take a picture. "Gotta post this." My mama don't play when she cook. I let him take the picture. Let them think this was about pride. We sat. I said grace, the same grace I had said over every meal times for 50 years. They bowed their heads out of habit, not reverence. Then we ate. They moaned and groaned over every bite the way children do when something tastes like home. Tanisha closed her eyes when she tasted the mac and cheese. "Nobody makes it like you, Mama." Malik tore into a roll and butter ran down his wrist. "Man, I forgot how good your food is." I watched them eat the food I had made with hands that had scrubbed their clothes, bandaged their knees, wiped their tears, and later paid their bills. And I felt nothing but cold clarity. They finished first, pushing his plate away with a satisfied sigh. "That was fire, Ma. You should open a restaurant." Tanisha laughed. "For real, you'd make bank." I stood slowly and walked to the sideboard. I picked up the thick manila folder and the 3 envelopes and carried them to the table. I placed the folder in the center like a centerpiece made of truth. Both of them looked at it, then at me, smiles fading. "What's all that?" Tanisha asked, trying to keep her voice light. "Dessert," I said. I sat back down, folded my hands, and looked at them, really looked at them, for the first time in years. "I have something to say," I began. My voice did not shake. "And for once you are going to listen until I'm finished." Malik opened his mouth. I raised one finger. He closed it. I started with Mother's Day. I told them exactly what time I woke up, what time I set the table, what time the chicken came out perfect, what time I sat waiting, what time I cried, what time I threw away the flowers. I told them how many times I called, how many times they sent me to voicemail, how many times they chose a party over their mother. Tanisha's eyes filled with tears, real or fake. I no longer cared. I laid the printed screenshots on the table one by one. Their group chat, the old woman comments, the laughing emojis, the "she'll fund the glow-up" line. I watched their faces go from confusion to horror to shame to anger in that order. "Mama, we were just joking," Malik started. "Joking?" I said softly. "You joked about me for 6 straight months while I sold my wedding ring to pay your light bill?" I slid the receipts across the table next. $25,900. Itemized by year, by lie, by emergency that never existed. Tanisha tried to push them back. "Mama, please." I kept going. I laid out the Facebook and Instagram photos in chronological order. Restaurant checks, designer bags, trips to Miami, new cars, bottle service, all while they cried poor to me. I told them about following them, about the $250 dinner at St. Cecilia, about the red dress that cost more than my medicine for 6 months. Malik's face went dark. "You was stalking us?" "I was seeing you," I corrected, for the first time. Then I opened the manila folder and placed the new will on top. "Effective last week," I said. "Everything I own is no longer automatically yours. The house is already under contract. The money from the sale, $100,000, is in an account neither of you can touch. When I die, 50% goes to Miss Eleanor Johnson for being the only person who ever treated me like family. 25% goes to a charity for abandoned elderly women. The remaining 25% will be split between you, if you're still alive to claim it." Tanisha let out a sound like a wounded animal. You can't do that. I already did. Malik stood up so fast his chair fell backward. This is insane. We're your kids. You stopped being my children the day you started calling me the old woman. Behind my back, I said, children love their mamas. You two just loved my wallet. I slid their envelopes across the table. These are the only things you will ever receive from me again while I'm living. Inside are keys to safe deposit boxes. You'll find a few keepsakes from your father. That's it. That's all you get. Tanisha opened hers with shaking fingers. When she saw it was only keys and no money, she threw the envelope down. So that's it? After everything? After everything you took, I said. Yes, that's it. Malik didn't even open his. He just stared at me like I was a stranger. You really hate us that much? He asked, voice cracking for the first time. I don't hate you, I said. I'm just finished loving you more than you ever loved me. Silence fell like a guillotine. I stood. Dinner is over. You can let yourselves out. Tanisha tried one last time, tears streaming. Mama, please. We can fix this. We'll change. We'll visit every Sunday. No more chances, I said. You had 50 years of chances. The door is closed. I walked to the front door and held it open. Malik stormed past me first, envelope still on the table. Tanisha followed, sobbing, clutching her purse like it could save her. At the threshold, she turned. You'll regret this when you're old and alone. I looked her dead in the eye. I already was old and alone, I said. You just made it official. The door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded like freedom. I stood in the quiet house for a long time. Then I went back to the dining room, blew out the candles, and began to clear the table. I wrapped the leftover food and put it in the refrigerator. Not because I thought they would come back for it, but because waste is a sin. I washed every dish by hand, dried the silver, and put it away. With every plate I stacked, I felt another piece of the old Vivian fall away. When the kitchen was spotless, I took the manila folder and the 2 unopened envelopes and carried them to the backyard burn barrel. I lit a match. I watched the receipts curl and blacken. I watched the screenshots turn to ash. I watched the Facebook printouts disappear into smoke. I did not cry. When the last ember died, I went inside, locked the door, and slept the sleep of a woman who had finally spoken her truth. 3 weeks, I thought as I drifted off. 3 more weeks, and the bus would carry me away from this house, this city, these children, who were never really mine. 3 more weeks, and Vivian Sterling would be reborn. July 20th, August 9th. 21 days left on the calendar I had marked with quiet red X's. The morning after the Last Supper, I woke up lighter than I had in decades. No tears, no heaviness in my chest. Just the clean, sharp feeling of a wound finally cauterized. I made coffee, sat on the back step, and listened to the birds like they were singing only for me. Then I got to work. The house sold faster than anyone expected. The buyer was a young doctor from California who wanted to move his family south for better schools. He paid cash, asked for a 30-day close, and didn't haggle over a single thing. $100,000 wired to my secret account on August 1st. I stared at the new balance on my phone for a long time. $103,400 after the sale of furniture and the last of Marcus's tools, and I felt something I had never felt in my life. Safety. I hired a moving company to ship 5 small boxes to a storage unit in Coastal Haven. Everything else, furniture, dishes, linens, the bedroom set Marcus and I bought when Tanisha was born, I gave away or sold for pennies. Neighbors came like pilgrims. Miss Eva cried when I handed her the cedar chest that had held my wedding dress. Mr. George took the porch swing and promised to oil it every spring. The flower lady on the corner got the television and hugged me so hard my ribs creaked. Every item that left felt like another chain snapping. I kept only what fit in 1 medium suitcase and 1 carry-on. 7 changes of clothes. My mother's Bible, the one with the bus ticket still tucked in Psalms. Marcus's pocket watch. A small photo album with me, Marcus, 6-year-old Tanisha, and 4-year-old Malik at the county fair. The last picture where we all looked happy. My new notebook, already half full of plans and ocean-colored dreams. $5,000 in cash, zipped into a money belt I wore under my clothes. Everything else could burn for all I cared. Ellie came every afternoon. We sat on the bare living room floor, the sofa long gone, drinking iced tea from plastic cups and talking about nothing and everything. She never once tried to change my mind. She only said, "You're glowing, Vivian. I ain't seen you glow since 1985. On July 28th, Tanisha showed up unannounced. I was sweeping the empty dining room when I saw her through the window. Standing on the porch in sunglasses, arms crossed tight like armor. I opened the door but did not invite her in. "Mama," she started, voice already trembling. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. We stood on the porch like strangers. She had rehearsed this, I could tell. She launched into a speech about how sorry she was, how she had been selfish, how Malik was coming around too, how they wanted to make it right, how they could visit every weekend, how they could take care of me. I let her talk until she ran out of words. Then I said, "The house is sold. I leave in 12 days. I'm not telling you where I'm going. That part of my life is over." Her face collapsed. "You're really doing this?" "I already did it." She tried tears. "Mama, what about when you get sick? Who's going to take care of you?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "The same person who took care of me the last 20 years. Me." She left crying. I went back inside and finished sweeping. 3 days later, Malik texted from a new number. I had blocked the old one. "Ma, please, we need to talk." "This ain't you." I did not reply. August 5th, the house was almost empty. Only the kitchen table and one chair remained, plus an air mattress in the bedroom. I slept better on that air mattress than I had on the old pillow top in years. I spent my days walking the neighborhood saying quiet goodbyes. To the oak tree Malik used to climb and break his arm at age 8. To the cracked sidewalk where Tanisha learned to ride a bike. To the corner store where Marcus and I used to buy orange push-up pops on hot Saturdays. I did not linger. I just touched each place once, like turning a page. On August 7th, I went to the bank and withdrew the $5,000 cash. I sewed half of it into the lining of my suitcase, kept the rest in the money belt. I bought new sneakers, white ones, because I planned to walk a lot of beaches. I bought a sunblock and a wide-brimmed hat and a lightweight rain jacket. Things I never owned before because I never went anywhere. That night, Ellie took me to dinner at a soul food restaurant downtown. We ate catfish and okra and laughed until our sides hurt. She gave me a going-away gift, a silver necklace with a tiny silver wave pendant. "For the new Vivian," she said, fastening it around my neck. I cried then, only for her. August 8th, the final night in the house. The moving truck had come and gone. The walls were bare, echoes loud. I swept the floors one last time, turned off the breaker box, and left the keys with the real estate lawyer. Ellie let me sleep on her couch. We stayed up until 2 a.m., drinking wine from coffee mugs and telling stories about our husbands, our younger selves, the women we used to be. At dawn on August 9th, she drove me to the Greyhound station. My bus left at 10 a.m. I wore the new white sneakers. The sun had folded in my bag, the wave necklace shining at my throat. I carried only the suitcase and the carry-on. Everything I owned in the world weighed less than 60 pounds. We arrived early. We sat on a bench near Gate 6, holding hands, not saying much. At 9:42 I saw them. Tanisha and Malik walking fast across the terminal, eyes scanning, desperate. Tanisha's hair was pulled back, no makeup, eyes red. Malik looked like he hadn't slept. Ellie stood up, ready to block them, but I touched her arm. "It's okay," I said. "Let them come." They stopped 5 feet away. Tanisha spoke first, voice cracking. "Miss Ellie called us. She said you were really leaving today." "Please, Mama, please don't go like this." Malik's jaw worked. "We messed up. We know, just don't disappear." I stood slowly, suitcase handle in my hand. "You have 5 minutes," I said. "Say what you came to say." Malik pulled 2 envelopes from his pocket, the ones I had left on the table the night of the dinner. He held them out like peace offerings. "We read the letters," he said. "All of it. Every word. We didn't know. We didn't know how much we hurt you that bad." Tanisha was crying openly now. "We took the keys. We went to the safe deposit boxes. We saw Daddy's things. We sat there and cried like babies. Mama, we're so sorry." I looked at them and felt nothing. Not anger, not even pity. Just the clean, cool distance of a woman who has already boarded the boat and cut the rope. "I'm glad you saw his things," I said. "Hold on to them. They're the last pieces of him you'll ever get from me." Malik stepped closer. "Come home with us. Let us prove we can change." I smiled, small and final. "You had 50 years to prove it," I said. "I'm all out of years to give." The loudspeaker crackled. "Bus 1847 to Jacksonville. Savannah and Coastal Haven, now boarding at Gate 6. I picked up my suitcase. Tanisha grabbed my arm. "Mama, please, at least tell us where you're going. What if something happens to you?" I looked down at her hand on my arm, then up at her face. Then it happens, I said gently. And it will be mine to handle. Not yours. I pulled 2 final envelopes from my purse, the ones I had prepared the night before, and handed one to each of them. These are the last letters you will ever get from me, I said. Read them when I'm gone. Or burn them. I don't care anymore. Malik's voice broke. Mama, we love you. I looked at him for a long moment. I know you love me the only way you know how, I said. And that's why I have to go. The driver called final boarding. I hugged Ellie hard, whispered I love you in her ear, and walked toward the bus. Tanisha called after me, voice rising into a wail. Mama! I did not turn around. I climbed the steps, showed my ticket, found my window seat near the back. Through the glass I saw Ellie waving, tears shining but smiling proud. I saw Tanisha on her knees in the terminal, Malik holding her up. Both of them finally understanding that the money train had left the station forever, and the woman they had taken for granted was gone. The bus doors hissed shut. The engine turned over. We pulled away from the curb slowly, then faster, the city shrinking behind us. I watched the skyline disappear, watched the neighborhood I had lived in for 42 years fade into green blur. I did not cry. I opened my notebook to the first blank page and wrote, August 9, Mile 0. I am 70 years old today, and I have never felt younger. The past is in the rear-view mirror now. The ocean is waiting. I closed the notebook, leaned my head against the cool glass and smiled. 21 hours to Coastal Haven. 21 hours to the rest of my life. August 10th, dawn. The bus rolled into Coastal Haven just as the sun broke over the Atlantic, turning the sky peach and rose and gold. I stepped off with my suitcase and carry-on, the salt air hitting my face like a blessing. For the first time in 71 years, no one was waiting to ask me for anything. I was alone and it felt like flying. Brenda Hayes, the hotel owner, met me at the door with a smile wide enough to heal old wounds. Welcome home, Miss Vivian, she said like she already knew. She showed me to room 12, second floor, balcony facing the ocean. I opened the sliding door and the sound of the waves rolled in, steady and endless. I stood there until the breeze dried the tears I didn't know were falling. I stayed at Brenda's for 3 weeks while I looked for a permanent place. Every morning I walked the beach before the tourists woke up. I collected shells the way other people collect forgiveness. Slowly, deliberately, keeping only the perfect ones. I learned the names of birds, laughing gulls, royal terns, willets. I learned the smell of low tide and the feel of wet sand under new white sneakers. I learned that my lungs could still fill all the way up. On the 10th day, Miss Gloria Jenkins found me on the boardwalk bench again. She was 82, sharp as a tack, wearing a straw hat big enough to shade half the county. You still got that new life shine, she said, sitting without invitation. Come to the Silver Waves Club tonight. We meet at the community center. Coffee, cards, gossip, and 0 children allowed to ruin it. I laughed out loud, the first real laugh in years, and promised I would. That night I walked into a room full of women and 3 brave men who had all done some version of what I had just done. Walked away from ungrateful families, bad marriages, old grief, and chosen themselves. They greeted me like I belonged. Miss Gloria introduced me as our newest mermaid. We played bid whist until midnight, ate lemon pound cake, and told stories that made us howl. I slept with the windows open and woke up smiling. On August 29th, I signed papers for the little blue house on Seabreeze Lane. 1 story, 2 bedrooms, wraparound porch, back deck hanging over the dunes. $50,000 cash. The closing took 23 minutes. When the realtor handed me the keys, I cried right there in her office. She hugged me and said, "Honey, every woman who buys her freedom cries at this table. It's tradition." I moved in on September 1st with my 5 boxes and a heart so light it could have floated me across the inlet. I bought simple things: a white wicker rocking chair for the deck, a small round table where I could eat breakfast watching the sunrise, a bed with crisp white sheets that smelled only of new beginnings, 1 good frying pan, 1 good pot, 1 good knife. Because I was cooking only for me now, a set of blue and white dishes from the thrift store that made me happy every time. I looked at them. I painted the front door sea glass green and hung a sign I ordered online. Simply Vivian. No last name needed. I started a new routine, one that belonged entirely to me. 6 a.m., coffee on the deck, watching the dolphins play. 7 a.m., walk the beach, say good morning to the regulars, Mr. Ronald, who fished every dawn, Miss Eva, who power walked with ankle weights, Gloria, who did Tai Chi in the surf, 9:00 a.m., right in my notebook. Sometimes poetry, sometimes just, today I am happy. Afternoons, Silver Waves Club or reading on the porch. Or driving the golf cart I bought used for $800 all over town, like a teenager. Evenings, cook something delicious, eat on the deck, watch the stars come out one by one. I made friends fast and deep. There was Dolores, 75, who left an alcoholic son in Mobile. Ruth, 68, who walked out on a husband who called her the old lady to her face. Ronald, 77, whose daughter only called when she needed bail money. We became each other's chosen family. We celebrated birthdays with homemade cakes and champagne on the beach. We held hands when one of us got bad news from the doctor. We danced to old Motown at the pavilion every Thursday night. I called Ellie every Sunday evening. She told me the old neighborhood was quiet, that Tanisha and Malik had asked about me exactly twice and stopped when they realized she wouldn't tell. The house sold, the money was mine, and no one could touch it. I sent her photos of sunrises, and she sent me pictures of her grandbabies. We promised to visit, and we meant it. On my 71st birthday, October 12th, my new family threw me a party on the beach. They brought folding chairs in a circle around a fire pit. Someone played guitar. Brenda made a 3-layer coconut cake with Happy Birthday, Simply Vivian Day, written in blue icing. Gloria gave me the painting she had done of my house at sunset, the one now hanging over my sofa. Ronald gave me a hand-carved wooden sign that read, "The tide is kind here." I cried happy tears into the firelight and felt loved every one of them with a love that was returned tenfold. That night I walked home alone under a full moon, barefoot in the sand, dress hem wet, heart so full it hurt. I sat on my deck with a glass of sweet tea and opened my notebook to a fresh page. I wrote, "My name is Vivian, simply Vivian. I'm 71 years old, and I've never been more alive. I wake up to the sound of waves instead of worry. I cook for one, and it tastes like freedom. I have friends who call just to say I love you, with no strings attached. I have money in the bank that no one can guilt out of me. I have a house with my name on the mailbox and no one else's. I have seen dolphins leap at sunrise and laughed so hard my sides ached. I have danced barefoot in the sand to songs I used to cry to. I have forgiven myself for staying too long and thanked myself for finally leaving. I thought leaving would feel like loss. It feels like birth. I thought choosing myself would feel selfish. It feels like breathing after decades underwater. I thought I would miss them. Some days I do, like missing a bruise you finally stopped pressing. But the missing passes, and the ocean is always there to wash it away. I no longer dream of empty tables or unanswered phones. I dream of tomorrow's sunrise and the new shells the tide will bring me. I am no longer mama to children who never saw me. I am Vivian to people who see all of me and love me anyway. I am Vivian to the woman in the mirror who finally recognizes herself. The children I carried for 9 months each, the children I broke my body and spirit for, are living their consequences now. I wish them no harm. I simply wish them nothing at all. My wishes are all used up on me. Tonight the moon is full and silver on the water, and the waves keep saying the same thing over and over. You did it. You did it. You did it. And I answer back, whispering into the dark. Yes, I did. I close the notebook, set it on the table beside my empty glass, and walk inside my little blue house. I turn off the porch light, lock the door, and smile. Tomorrow will be another beautiful day, another day of simply being Vivian. And that is the greatest gift I have ever been given.